Okay, in this video, we're going to be talking about how to get low-income housing. This is for people that are very low income, so under 46,000 a year, okay? This is also going to be for people that are very close to being homeless and or possibly already homeless, okay? In most states, they use, HUD uses what they call a program called Housing First, which is Continuum of Care. That is the name of the program. Now, there are some states and cities like Atlanta, Georgia, and many others that still work off the old system. It's called a vulnerability indexed, and it's more or less a written questionnaire, and then it's a verbal questionnaire that they do. What I have is the state and federal manuals for HUD, okay? And I have their test, and I understand, and I can explain how you can score. And then once we go through that process of reading the test and you look at how you can score, the ultimate goal is rather than being at the bottom of the list, I'm going to show you how to be at the top of the list, okay? This is not a video on how to manipulate the system. However, you can use it however you want to. Um, Now, with that being said, we're going to go over the VI-SPDAT, and this is for states and cities that administer this rather than the continuum of care test, okay? So what we're going to do is I'm going to switch from you looking at me to us looking at the screen, and we're going to go question by question, and we're going to learn how they do this, the scores. Trust me when I tell you this, they probably wouldn't want you to have this manual, their manual that they train with, and they certainly don't want you to really have the answers, okay? Especially this old system like this that they used to use, it's really a process eliminating out people, and if you don't know how to answer it right, instead of being on the top of the list, you will be at the bottom. Another thing I want to tell you is when it comes to these tests that they administer, you can go to a regular HUD office, okay? And that HUD office is about, I don't know, 30% of all the allocated resources for housing goes through the normal HUD, okay? And then there's a back door to HUD, and that's through these programs, okay? And there's two of them, essentially, that administer tests. One is the Continuum of Care and the Housing First program, and then the much older version of that is the Vulnerability Index, the VI-SPDAT, okay? And so today we're going to be talking about the B test. Now, when you go through programs rather than directly to HUD, the other 70% of housing that's being provided out there is for specifically for people that are low income, that are next to homeless and homeless. And the nice part about this is if you score, once you learn how to score very high, you will be at the top of the list rather than the bottom. And had you just dealt directly with the HUD office, okay? All right, we'll see you in a minute. Okay, we're going to move on to the vulnerability index. This is the test we've been talking about. Now, let's bear in mind, as I said before, states like Atlanta, Georgia, and a few others still work on the old system. This is the old system. The newer one is called Housing First, and it's run through the continuum of care. So for you guys that are going to be going to a state that has a VI-SPDAT assessment or test, this is that test that if you don't score highly enough, you're going to end up lower and lower on the list. The goal is to score highly. So let's take a look at the kind of questions they're going to ask. Now, unlike the continuum of care test, this one only gives you two options. If you answer the questions correctly, then you get 1 point. If you answer the questions and you don't qualify, then you don't get anything. You get 0 points, okay? Now, you'll notice as we go through this, there are some questions that are tricky. And the reason they're tricky is because people, when they're asked questions about themselves, they don't want to look bad. And so, this test kind of plays with that. It plays on you a little bit emotionally because some things you don't want to admit to. Well, the thing about that is when you don't admit the truth, then you're going to end up burning yourself and you're not going to be able to get good housing or you're not going to get it at all because you're not going to score high enough. So you need to let go of trying to look like this fantastic person. Just follow what you're fixing to read. So let's take a look at the test. We're going to go briefly over it. Remember, there is a link to this. You can do this by yourself and then you can add up your points at the end. So, the administrator adds her name and all that, and then she has an opening script, and then you start your basic information. The red labels are the ones you're looking for, okay? So here's a red label. It means we got a point that you can earn. Are you over 60? That's a yes or no. If it's a yes, give yourself 1 point. Now here it asks in black, where do you sleep most frequently? Now look at the red. It says if a person answers anything other than a shelter, transitional housing, or safe haven, give yourself a point. If you go and tell these people, yeah, I'm living in an apartment or I've got a 3-story mansion, give yourself a 0, okay? Next is, how long has it been since you lived in permanent housing or state? Now, it also knows that permanent stable housing. That can mean a lot of things. Let's just stick to what the federal definition is by HUD. If you're not on somebody's lease, then you can still be considered homeless. So that would be a yes. In the last 3 years, how many times have you been homeless? Well, all these tests are geared around the last 3 years of your life. They don't care about your entire whole history, just the last 3 years. So anytime that you're not on the lease, then that's then you more or less can qualify. So let me explain something real carefully about this and the continuum of care test. What they consider chronically homeless is simply 3 different things. The first is in the last 3 years that you have been homeless 12 consecutive months, the whole time. The second scenario is where I stayed at Sally's house. I was on the couch. And I was there 6 days. Remember not to go over 7. You cannot be stable more than 7 days, and otherwise you're going to zero out your test as being chronic, okay? So I was at Sally's house 6 days, then I was homeless for 6 months. I then went back to Sally's house for 5 days. Remember, we're not going over 7. And so I was there 5 days, and then I was homeless another 6 months. Now you have 6 months plus 6 months equals 12 months, okay? That makes you chronically homeless. But the thing about this is you need to stay on Sally's couch 4 different times and to qualify. And let's read why below. So it asks more questions. In the past 6 months, how many times have you received health care in an emergency room department? That's a qualifying answer, okay? Have you taken an ambulance or to the hospital? That's a qualifying question. Have you been hospitalized as an inpatient? So A, B, C, D, E, and F, okay? You need to score, let's see how many of those you're going to answer correctly. If the total number of interaction equals 4 or more. So out of all those questions, at least 4 of them you must say yes to, okay? And that will give you a point. The next is, have you been attacked, beaten, or beaten up since you become homeless? Look, things happen in life. If somebody hasn't attacked you, I'm sure that your friend standing next to you can give you a quick slap and then your answer would be yes. Have you been threatened? Well, it's simple. Ask your friend and have them threaten you. Give yourself a point. Now, I'm joking in that respect. I don't want you guys to lie, but I think you understand how the system works. If you've got to play this, if there's going to be a game to the system, you might as well play it the correct way. Okay. It says, if you answered any of those questions about being threatened or harassed or beat up, then give yourself a point. I think we can establish whether or not those things happened, okay? Remember, this is reporting, so it is on an honesty system, and they don't need a police report in order for you to qualify for that point. Do you have any legal stuff going on right now? Now, this question here is going to be one of the trick questions. Do you have any legal stuff going on right now that may result in you being locked up, having to pay fine, or make it difficult for you to rent a place to live? Now, notice there's a wide variation here. Everything from fines to being locked up, or it may be difficult to rent. Most people are going to answer no because they don't want to look bad. Look, guys, don't do that. Yeah, you have problems paying rent. Maybe you even have a few traffic tickets that go back. It doesn't matter how long they are. It could be from 1970. If you answer yes, you're going to give yourself a point, okay? And it does say in red, if yes, then score 1 for legal issues. Okay, now if you lie, it's a 0. Now let's move on to the next question. Does anybody force or trick you to do things you don't want to do? Well, that happens in everyday life. So that would be a yes. Do you ever do things that may be considered risky? You can read the rest of that sentence, but do you do anything risky? You could probably answer yes. Now let's see what this thing says. If yes to any of the above questions, give yourself a point. That was very simple. Now let's go on to C, socialization and daily functioning. Only 2 questions here. Is there any person, a landlord, business, bookie, dealer, whatever, anybody that you owe money? Okay, did you borrow 50 cents to pay for the soda pop in your hand? Answer yes. Do you get money from any place, government pension? Do you get money from anywhere? Okay. This is how this C is a tricky question. So if you're receiving anything, you would probably want to answer no. Let me tell you why about that money part. Look at in red. If yes to the question number one, and then no to question number 11, then just give yourself a point. So yes for 10 and then no for 11. It's a trick question. Got it, guys? Otherwise, you'll lose the point. If no, then score one for, let's read number 12 here. Do you have planned activities or any other than just surviving? So, in other words, are you have any interest in life, or do you not care at all? Okay. If yes, then give yourself a point. Now you're understanding. Okay. A lot of this is going to be yes questions. There are going to be a few of them that are mixed in as trick questions, and you could lose a point. And let's move down to wellness. And I'm going to skip all the questions they're going to ask you. Just go to the red part. If yes to any of the above, then give yourself a point. If you show do 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20, and then take a look there. And then substance abuse is a tricky question, okay? Let me tell you something about this. Be careful about when you say substance abuse. If you're an alcoholic, then fine. If your doctor writes you pain pills for your back and you abuse that, that's fine. Be very, very careful if you tell these people that you're smoking crack and shooting heroin, because believe it or not, that gets recorded in there and will, in some ways, make it extremely difficult for you to get housing, okay? So be an alcoholic. You can be a prescribed a pill junkie, but illegal substances, skip past that. It's up to you morally how you want to answer the question, but I'm just warning you about that, okay? If yes to the above questions, then give yourself a point. If the respondent scored one for physical health and one for substance abuse, then give yourself a point. And what I mean by that is in this row, question 23 and 24, if you answer more than two of those as a yes, they give you an additional point. So there's your chance to get you a bonus point if you qualify. Okay, let's take a look here. 25. Are there any medications the doctor said you should be on? Well, hell, that could apply to anybody. Answer yes. Are there any medications for pain, like painkillers, that you don't take? Sometimes it's hard for me to read these questions. Do you sometimes sell the pills that you get that are prescribed to you? Before you answer that question, it's a trick question actually, because they want you to answer no. If yes to any of the above questions, give yourself 1 point, okay? So you can answer yes from 25 or 26. Remember, be honest, okay? As long as it doesn't have to do with illegal substances. Yes or no, has your current period of homelessness been caused by an experience of emotional, physical, and it gives a long list of stuff. You can say yes or no. If you answer refuse on any of the stuff, it is an automatic 0, okay? So let's see what it says below. If yes, then score 1 for abuse and trauma. Now, we asked a bunch of questions, and when you add up all your points, it tells you right here what you're going to get, all right? So it says down here, if you score 0 to 3, you get no housing intervention, okay? If you get a 4 to 7, now let me highlight this so you guys understand. 4 to 7, you get rapid rehousing. For those that don't know, rapid rehousing is a very quick, it's a housing voucher, and you go out and then you figure it out yourself. If you score an 8 plus, you get permanent housing at a pretty steep discount, and then they pretty much do everything for you. They'll go find it, they'll pay your deposits and all that good stuff. So, your 8 plus scores are probably pretty good ones to have. So you can take your test over and over and over and figure out your score points, and then that's it. And then if you look at the bottom here, you'll see a follow-up questions. And that's going to be for the worker. So that's all there really is to the test. So, if you answer correctly and you score a bunch of points, you're going to get the housing. If you don't answer correctly, then you get a bunch of zeros. And good luck to you, because what they're going to do is they're going to give you a piece of paper and send you to a pantry and wish you luck in life. So now, as I said, these are the current federal standard and manual for the vulnerability index, and really, this thing's getting phased out. It's not very good, and I really don't like the fact they put a lot of trick questions in there. but I guess that's how they feel they're able to control how many participants they get. So you have a unique advantage that nobody else has. You have the test, you have the answers, you understand the scoring system. And look, guys, I really, you know what? If you're out there and you found this, you deserve to get housing, okay? Because nobody that actually has resources would be looking for this. So I feel like the right type of people are going to find this video, and it'll be useful to them. All right, guys. Look, if this was useful to you, I appreciate it. You can always subscribe to the channel. Make sure you click on the channel name and check out the other videos. I have the other test as well where I did a video on it, and I can show you it's a little bit different than this and has a different scoring system, a little bit more detail. But there's a lot of good resources, and I do these videos in a lot of different cities to help people out because, this is not the Wild West anymore where they're allowed to judge you, okay? Well, he looks too schizophrenic to be in housing and all this stuff. They're not allowed to do that stuff anymore. And that's why I am trying to expose these tests and show you guys how to be successful so you can move on with your life and hopefully have a good one. All right, guys, it's been fun. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye now.